Today we're going to talk about a place that went from this wild, remote mountain wilderness to one of Southern California's absolute favorite year-round playgrounds. Yeah, we're digging into the saga of Big Bear Valley.
So, that's the big question, right? How on earth does a place that's so isolated, a place literally named after giant grizzly bears, turn into this massive resort destination that millions of people flock to every year? Well, the answer isn't a simple one. It's not a straight line from A to B. It's actually a series of huge, game-changing transformations. We're talking about gold, we're talking about water, and then finally, snow. So let's walk through each step of the journey. But you know what? To really get a sense of this story, let's start kind of near the end. Take a look at this. This is the Lynn Lift, built back in 1938. This single invention is the key to the Big Bear we know today. But to really understand just how big of a deal this was, we got to go all the way back to the very beginning. Okay, first, let's just picture what the valley was like before all of this. We're talking about a pristine, untouched world. People often called it an island in the sky because it was just surrounded by this vast pine forest. For about 2,500 years, it was the seasonal home of the Serrano Indians, and for them, it was a paradise, a really rich source of food with trout-filled streams and tons of acorns and piñon nuts. The modern story, though, really kicks off in 1845. A guy named Benjamin Davis Wilson leads this expedition into the valley, and what he finds is a meadow just swarming with grizzly bears, so he wastes no time and names the place Big Bear Valley. Pretty straightforward, huh? So for the next 15 years or so, not a lot really changed. It was still just a spot for a few tough-as-nails trappers and prospectors. But that was about to change, in a very, very big way. All right, this slide really shows you the two guys who basically defined early Big Bear. On the left, you've got Wilson, the fellow who gave the valley its famous name. And on the right, that's William F. Holcomb. He's the man who would give it its first real industry, gold. And things happened fast, lightning fast. In May of 1860, Holcomb strikes gold. By the middle of June, the Gold Mountain mine is up and running. And then, just weeks later, these boom camps with thousands of miners just spring up out of absolutely nowhere. The quiet valley was changed forever, just like that. But you know how gold rushes go? They eventually fade. The next big transformation for Big Bear wouldn't come from digging something out of the ground. Nope, it came from building something monumental right on top of it. And what was the price tag? $75,000. Now, that might not sound like much today, but back in 1884, that was an absolutely colossal sum of money. All of it invested in an engineering project that a lot of people thought was just plain impossible.
And when it was finally finished, people didn't just see it as a dam. They were so blown away by the scale of it all, they were actually calling it the eighth wonder of the world.
And here it is. This was the project, the original dam, built by a man named Frank E. Brown. His goal was purely practical, you see. He just wanted to create a reservoir to irrigate citrus groves miles and miles away. He had absolutely no idea that he was also accidentally creating the valley's main attraction, what was, at the time, the largest man-made lake in the entire world. So this huge new lake gave people a whole new reason to come to Big Bear. But there was still one major problem. How do you get there? For a long, long time, this was it. A stagecoach that ran just 3 times a week on this long, pretty treacherous road. Just getting there was a serious adventure, which meant this beautiful new lake was really only a destination for the most determined travelers. But then, by the 1920s, everything had changed. The arrival of the horseless carriage, yep, the automobile, and these ambitious new roads like the famous Rim of the World Drive finally broke the valley's isolation. For the first time ever, you could actually drive all the way up to Big Bear Lake. And this new accessibility, well, it fueled a resort boom. The very first hotel went up way back in 1888. By 1912, the Pine Knot Lodge had become the social center of the whole valley. And then, with the completion of that amazing highway in 1924, Big Bear's reputation as a top-tier summer getaway was totally sealed. But it was still just that, a summer destination. The valley was gorgeous in the winter, of course, but it was mostly empty. And that set the stage for one last crucial reinvention. You can really see the evolution here, right? It goes from a summer spot focused on the lake to a true resort town. And then, 1938, the invention that completely changes the entire economic model of the valley.
And this brings us right back to where we started, looking at the Lynn Lift. It was built by a local ski club, and this simple machine began the complete transformation of the valley. It turned a place that basically shut down in the winter into an all-year recreation wonderland.
The impact was just profound. Before 1938, Big Bear was a summer-only town. Its whole economy depended on warm weather and people using the lake. After 1938, it became a year-round playground. It suddenly had 2 peak seasons, adding a massive snow sports industry that now brings in hundreds of thousands of visitors every single winter.
And that brings us to today. The story of Big Bear is just one of constant evolution, from a land of grizzlies to a land of gold miners, then to a lakeside retreat, and finally, a mountain for skiing. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? After all these incredible reinventions, what could possibly be next?